Hey Viva fam, I'm Richa.
And I'm Lucy.
And we're from Coach Viva. And we are starting this new type of series where we talk about questions we get a lot from our clients and wanted to share our answers more broadly rather than just with them. We won't be naming names, they'll be anonymous. But we'll share our suggestions. Maybe they're helpful to you as well. That's the hope. We'll also talk about what's going on in our lives.
Yeah, regarding health and fitness, well, some of the stuff we've been trying, some of the new learnings we have discovered about health and fitness, because we are also always learning about this stuff too.
Yes, it's a never-ending journey, as with any area. So yeah, hopefully you enjoy it. I figure first we can just start with what's going on maybe in our lives.
The main thing that's been so today, or this past week, I've been looking at all sorts of different health and fitness podcasts just to kind of be like, what is out there? I used to listen to podcasts religiously on health in the health and fitness space, and I kind of took a break. So I started going back and finding some new stuff. And so the interesting I notice is that the content targeted towards women are so different than the content targeting towards men. And we had like a small discussion about this earlier this week. But it seems like the stuff targeting primarily towards women, I don't have the exact words to describe it, but it's almost like they're all about like protecting you or supporting you or bringing you from a place where if you can consider like there's a baseline point, and then they assume you're starting from below baseline, and they're trying to bring you up to a fixing point. Basically, they're trying to fix you.
What is the baseline? Is it body baseline or is it emotional baseline? Or?
I would think it's mostly emotional, actually. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So it's as though the ones targeted toward women kind of assume that you are already at a point where you are emotionally not secure with yourself, which I know it is true for a lot of women, with our media and everything.
And men. Yeah.
And men, actually. Yeah, and men. And so it makes sense because this does happen to everybody, but it seems like vastly the podcast targeting towards women are just assuming that you're in this broken emotional state. And then there's some actual actionable tips involved as well as to how do you actually get stronger, how do you actually lose weight, that kind of stuff, but it's mostly emotional based. And then the ones I felt that were targeting towards men were basically pretty much all about action steps. Yeah. And it's about less about the emotional part and more about the physical part. Like, what are the actual physical changes you can make? And it's assuming that you're at normal baseline, and it's all about bringing you up to be the best that you can be. So I guess it almost felt like the ones targeted towards women were more about fixing yourself, primarily emotionally, and the one targeted towards men were more about bringing yourself to be the best you can be, and that's more physically. There was a point in my life where I needed that. Right. I'm not at that point in my life anymore, and so I appreciate it, but it wasn't that valuable to me. Right. So I guess I brought this up because I found myself listening more and more to podcasts that are targeted towards men now. Yeah. Because I'm at the stage where I just want to get better. And
it's not fixing, it's advancing. Like the words are interesting to me that you're using fix in the women podcast case and advance in the other case. They're not saying you're broken.
Yeah, they're not saying I'm broken.
It's interesting, like if I'm looking at our clients, what is interesting is both men and women have been in both categories. Mm-hmm. The difference that I have seen is the men, so women who are in both categories, like either there are some emotional eating issues that they're working with or other kinds of emotional issues that they're recovering, they'll talk about it. Mm-hmm. And then the ones who just want to advance also talk about it, but they don't talk about the emotional part, they talk about, advancing, right? And then for men, it's been interesting that the men who want to advance, it's like straightforward again. You just help them. Sure. But the men who have emotional issues, I've noticed they tend to stonewall. Yes. And not talk at all. Yes. And I'm wondering how much of that, more percentage-wise, of course not all men, right? Some men will talk about the issues they're going through.
Yeah, but not all men, not all women, but...
Yes, exactly.
Disclaimer.
Yes, exactly. But ratio-wise, it's really interesting that way more women, when they're going through the emotional journey, will talk. Yes. But men will just, most of the time, I feel, not talk at all. I'm actually curious. I know that because I guess I am a woman and I know other women, I know we listen to the men's bodybuilding podcasts, right? Yeah. I wonder how many men actually listen to the women's podcast, because especially the men who don't want to just advance, they have other things to work through.
Right.
It might actually normalize a lot of what they're going through. And if they're only listening to the men's thing, it almost, I can see it coming across as like, you just need to advance. You just need to do ABC.
There's actually two things. One, do you feel it's because that they don't feel it's normal to talk about feelings, or do you think they literally don't have the vocabulary to do it? And both of them can come from not listening to other things.
I think they don't have maybe as much vocabulary. I feel like women have a very vast vocabulary to talk about feelings.
Yes.
You know, just generally, because like if you listen to any women thing, there's a lot of vocabulary and focus on it.
And I don't think this is like a gender thing. I mean, I think you can apply it to everything. Just like in general, if you listen to a very specific cohort of topics, then you only have the limited vocabulary for that specific topic in that specific group.
Yeah. Speaking of, did you read the link I sent you yesterday about the language thing?
Oh, I skimmed it. And I wanted to read it later.
Interesting. So like, I know you speak another language, right? I speak in other languages too.
Yes.
And it is extremely true that there are emotions you will not feel or will not know how to work through if you don't have the vocabulary for it.
Absolutely.
And if you've only spoken one language your entire life, I can imagine like how that would be not obvious, you know? So that's really interesting. So yes, I think like men should listen to women's podcasts and women should listen to men's podcasts. Like I think there should be like not as much.
And you'll just see what new perspectives you get on things. One more thing before we close, which is about the language thing. What I notice is that when it comes to the emotional mental side of things, the word mindset shows up a lot more on the men's fitness podcast, and the word lifestyle change or lifestyle, something like lifestyle, shows up a lot more on the women's side of the podcast. And I don't really know what to make of that yet. It's just something I noticed.
Yeah, that is very interesting to me as well. Because mindset seems way more specific than lifestyle.
But for me, lifestyle feels more visible to me. It feels more like present. Like mindset is too abstract for me, but when you talk about lifestyle change, I can visualize. I can visualize, yoga mat in my living room kind of situation. Whereas mindset is harder to visualize. So I guess, I don't know. So maybe that has something to do with it.
Yeah.
Mindset, I feel, gets to the root of the situation, or root of the problem-solving mechanism a lot more, but lifestyle is more like I visual my goal, what I feel like, or what I visualize in the future, kind of.
Right. You're right. And a part of mindset is visualization.
Yes, that is true.
That is a tactic that could be used. And maybe like identifying with that person. So maybe that's what's happening, because I have always personally I dove right into mindset. I didn't try to do a lot of the lifestyle
changes.
Yes. I'm curious, like if
I'm curious what our listeners think about this.
Yes, if you listen to both men's and women's podcasts, especially like
what do you prefer, lifestyle or mindset?
Exactly.
Let us know.
And do you agree with what our observations are, or do you have different observations?
Yes.
I think that would be interesting to hear from other people.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. What do you have?
So I have been doing, as you know, I've been doing body weight, and I've been trying to get to certain body weight skills like pull-ups again.
Yay!
And so one of the interesting things that you pointed out to me is like I was doing form checks for some of the new exercises that I'm doing. And you're the one who told me like, hey, have you looked up exercises for long-limbed people?
Oh, yes. So exercises can be performed differently depending on what your body structure looks like. As if health and fitness wasn't complicated enough.
Yes.
Here's another one.
And I knew I was long-limbed, but I didn't like connect the dots somehow. Like,
And can you just describe what you mean by long-limbed?
Yeah, so long-limbed is like I'm sitting, right? And Lucy and I look almost to be the same height.
Yes.
Like Lucy is actually, you're 5'4", right?
I'm 5'4".
Yeah, so she's like 4 inches shorter than me, and yet this is what we look like. But if we stand up, like I will be way taller than her. Like I'll be like somewhere here.
And actually, let's just compare our limbs. I know our listeners can't see it, but like as you can see, Richa's wingspan is so much bigger than my wingspan. Like there's still like 4 or 5 more inches left to go before I get to her arm length.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I've noticed this, but I didn't realize just how much of a difference it makes, because like I wonder if there's a correlation between like being this long-limbed and also injuring yourself more, because I do feel like my joints are further away from like the main pivot points, and that maybe like also causes like I feel like my knees are loose. It's not loose, but like somehow more.
It's got to do more work than a short-limbed kind of person, because I guess if you think about it, if you can imagine a squat, for instance, you have to squat a lot lower to get to parallel for your thighs to be parallel to the floor than somebody with shorter limb. They just squat lower, and so your knees are actually taking on a lot more of that force.
Yes.
And that makes total sense in that case, that long-limbed people might get injured more easily if they're lifting the same amount.
And there's very little literature on this, actually.
Yeah.
So like a lot of it has been experimentation in my case now. So like I used to take the same amount of rest time between sets as Lucy does, which is like a minute and a half. Now I take like 3 minutes. And I'm not doing the strong range, which is 4 to 8 reps. I'm doing the hypertrophy range, where you're supposed to not take 3-minute breaks, and I'm taking 3-minute breaks for that. And that has actually really helped. So like this is the longest I've gone without a serious injury that puts me out of the gym.
That's excellent. And you're seeing progress too.
I'm seeing progress.
In your strength and everything. Yay!
Yes, exactly. So it really helps a lot, because like I would get slowed down because I would injure something, and then I'd be like, oh, I can't work out that part. So I'll work out other parts, but then you're not fully, you're kind of slowed down because you're not doing full body exercises anymore. Yeah. You're still, and I only have so much time to go to the gym, so I'm not gonna like switch to an upper and lower body split suddenly in a week, right?
But it's also, I guess, rather than thinking of it as a slowdown, it can also be an investment towards getting you the foundational strength you need to start doing those full body exercises again. I'm imagining at a certain point, you're going to be durable enough that you can progress on your body weight, exercise the quote normal way.
Right.
But I've never worked with specifically long-limbed people, so or not ever worked, but I haven't specialized in this area to know exactly what to expect.
There's very few people who are specializing in this, because I did a research on that, and I wonder if it's like me, I just didn't diagnose myself as that. You told me about it.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that is a part of it. I think there's also not as much literature on, there's a lot of literature on like how do you do weights, like powerlifting, and then there's like how do you go full body weight. There's like not as much literature which is like how do you go between those two, and if there is, it's a lot by men who assume I can do, who assume my starting point is way higher than actually,
like you can already do a pull-up.
Yeah, exactly. It's like bold of you to assume I can already do a pull-up, like, And that was another thing that was really interesting, is because I was looking up pull-ups, and that is also really hard to do as even a very fit woman. Like most volleyball player women, for example, are extremely fit, but they won't be able to do a pull-up. A lot of men who are long-lived can't do a pull-up. And so it has a lot to do with like if you have a more like Lucy kind of structure, which is like more compact. And the same thing with men. You see men who might be bigger than Lucy, but like they're compact compared to like with like big wingspans. So they're able to get a pull up a lot quicker, but then if you're long limbed, you have 30% more weight to pull up, but you are normally only 20% stronger doing the same sets of exercises.
That's interesting. Yeah, and that makes total sense. Actually, this goes on to another point, actually, related to another topic I wanted to bring up, which is that if you actually look at professional sports people and in different sports areas like long distance running, sprinters, swimmers, dancers, and Olympic powerlifters, you'll notice a certain type of body type appearing in all of those categories. And you'll find that the powerlifter people are the compact, stocky types. And, a lot of people think that, if I lift weights, then I will have that body type of the weightlifter people or the bodybuilder people. Or if I swim, then I'm gonna have the body of a swimmer, and that's what I want, or dancer, or whatever. And it's actually the other way around, actually, more often than not, which is that the people with those body types just naturally do better. Like they it's not that you can't be a swimmer if you have a certain body type, but you have a natural advantage for a certain sport if you have a certain body type, and that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah, so if you look at the best in their field, the best people who are elite swimmers, for instance, you'll see a very specific body type. And so a lot of people think if I swim, I will get that body, but that's not necessarily the case. If you actually look at a preliminary type of event where people, like at the first stage where people start to weed out the people who don't qualify, you'll see that at the preliminary events, you'll see all sorts of different body types. But then the ones who eventually get filtered out to go on to the next stage, you'll see that the body types start looking similar and similar and similar and similar.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. So I guess the point is that be careful when you really, really want to look like somebody and you do their exact workout, and then be careful that you don't expect that you are literally going to look exactly like somebody else.
Yeah, like getting a realistic picture of your joint structure is really important. There's a video that's going to come out. It's called Toning Without Bulking. And that's a place where we like basically show photos of like, hey, these are what the body types are generally can be categorized into, and then using that as your baseline of what's achievable.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I like that a lot. Oh, there was one other thing I really liked that I wanted to point out, which was that Richa said that she didn't even realize she was a long-limbed person until I pointed it out. And that wasn't because I had any sort of like special knowledge about long-limbed people. Right. I just noticed. So I think something that's really helpful to a lot of people is to get a third perspective on what's going on. Just have somebody like watch a video of you lifting or something, or whatever it is that you're stuck with, and then just get them to notice. There was the longest time I had a hard time at networking events. I had a hard time engaging in a stranger, and Richa was with me during a time when I was trying to engage in a stranger, and then I asked Richa, am I doing something wrong? Because I feel like I'm saying all the right things. And she told me that I wasn't making eye contact with people. And after she said that, it was like mind blown. Like, how can I not realize I was not making eye contact with people? So it really helps to just get a third party perspective on
someone who would be honest with you.
Yes. That's important, yes.
Yeah, someone would be honest with you and not nitpick. I think that's the other piece, because sometimes when you give the floor to people who to ask for feedback, they're like, I must give some feedback.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so pick your feedback givers.
Yes.
Yeah, if you have that person in your life who's honest and notices things, that's gold. Keep them, they're good.
Yes. Yeah. Speaking of not being able to self-diagnose, the other thing I never self-diagnosed was that I was skinny fat. It was only in retrospect that I figured out I was skinny fat.
And define skinny fat. Tell people what that means.
Yeah, so skinny fat is when you look thin with clothes on, but when you get naked, you clearly see like you have like, you know, a big muffin top coming out. Like I would be sitting like this and there would be like a muffin top, you know?
Yeah.
Even though like technically if no one like focused on that area, like they would be like, oh, you look thin. You look fine. And
that's a very practical definition.
Yes.
Yeah. I think a lot of people can relate to that. It's when you look good in clothes, but then you're like, why do I still have a stomach?
Exactly.
Or like, I mean, obviously we all have stomachs, but you're like, the stomach doesn't seem proportional to the rest of my body.
Yes. Yeah. That is the correct thing. Yeah, because, you know, not to say like, of course, if anyone is sitting, you will have, that's called skin, right?
Yes.
Like you need to be able to move. If everything was tight, you wouldn't be able to move.
Everybody has a stomach pouch when they sit.
Yes.
Yeah. That's normal.
That is normal. Yeah. Exactly. But this is the thing that Lucy said, which is like, it just does not look proportional to the rest of you.
And the scientific term, I think, is that, or the more scientific term, or the more politically accurate term is over fat.
Yes.
Which means the amount of fat you have is disproportional to the total weight that you are. So somebody can be 200, like 150 pounds, and then another person can be like only 115 pounds. and the 115-pound person can actually have more body fat.
Yes.
Than the 150-pound person, and that's actually a very not healthy condition to be in.
Absolutely, and yeah, and I wanted to close on the physical symptoms as well. So like, there's the one where you'll notice you have much more of a, like, if you wear pretty tight clothes, you notice like you have a muffin top even while you're like standing sometimes. And the second thing is you'll notice that for your goal weight and age, people are able to perform better than you. So like, I would be walking, so we live in Seattle, we live on Capitol Hill, so there's a hill, and I would notice people who who are maybe the same size as me, or even, you know, bigger than me, they would be way better at like climbing that hill quicker than I would be, and I would like be tired. Right, and the reason was I just didn't have enough muscle. So like, you know, if you don't have enough muscle, you don't have enough power to push yourself up the hill.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like performance-wise, I would just notice that everyone is outperforming me, even people who are trying to lose fat, and I'm supposed to be the one who's normal, right?
Yeah.
So, but since everyone told me that I was thin, I was like, I guess that must be right. Like, everyone is telling me I'm thin.
Yeah.
But yet, you know, I have these, like, there was this what's the word?
Cognitive dissonance?
Yeah, cognitive dissonance. Yes, exactly. So that's what I had, because I was like, everyone tells me I'm thin. I think I look thin, but then when I take my shirt off, I'm like, that does not look right. There's like, you know, a pooch and everything.
Yeah, and you also can't perform as well as other people too.
Exactly.
Basic physical stuff.
Yeah, for my age and everything, right?
Right.
So I struggled with that a lot, and I ended up actually making changes because I got a lot of medical, like biological issues, which is just like a lot of cramps because I was skipping meals a lot, which is another thing skinny fat people, at least I've seen in our clients and myself, is we tend to eat not well. And by not well, it doesn't have to be that you're eating junk. It could be that you're eating less, but you're skipping a lot of meals in between. So your body is just like a little confused because it doesn't get fuel all the time. And then you're also not doing much activity. So it's like, maybe you don't need all this muscle.
Yeah.
It starts getting rid of stuff.
And I think when you did eat, it wasn't like high protein, high nutrition food.
No.
And so that does go into when your body is in kind of I need to hoard nutrition mode, and you're only giving it
one meal a day,
and it's mainly empty calories that will just go into fat storage,
exactly,
and not go into muscle building or, you know, efficient fuel usage or anything.
Yeah. So yeah, I didn't diagnose it until after I was done, and I think I would have been it would have been a quicker journey if I had realized that I was skinny fat, because that means not just losing fat, it actually means strength training.
Yeah.
You know?
I feel like there's a whole new world that opens up for people when they realize the difference between weight and fat.
Yes.
And then once they realize that muscle exists, like there's this thing called muscle that is very important for both weight loss and weight gain, it changes a lot of what you start to do.
Yeah, you would think so. I think it does for some people, but as we have learned, this was going to be my next topic. As we have learned from a lot of our clients, even having that realization is like, you know, they're like, still the inches don't matter. All I care about are the pounds.
So I think that there is a logical, like I logically understand and I logically believe, but emotionally, like my human brain believes, but my lizard brain has not accepted this yet, because I've been conditioned for years and years and years and years to focus on just the scale weight.
Yes.
I feel like a lot of them have that kind of dissonance going. We have had a few clients that just didn't believe as well.
Yes.
I'm happy to say those are few. I think most of our clients who are so focused on scale weight are logically believing that it's the body fat percentage that matters, and the inches that matters more than the scale weight. But yeah, you are right that most of them still have a like an emotional or mental block, about the weight overriding all of that.
Yes, and I would love to do like a data report on this at some point. But it is very interesting that there are these body types. Like there's the body type which, like, the second they change their habits, they start losing inches and weight immediately. Like, you know who I'm thinking about. Like, you know, a couple of these people, right? They're like very quick. And when they start eating more, it immediately reacts the other way. It's like extremely reactive to your habits.
Yeah.
That kind of body type.
It's very consistent.
It's very consistent, it's like the closest to textbook formulas.
Yes. We all want that.
Yes, we all want that. But out of like the hundreds of clients we have coached, they're like the minority. It's like, I would say like 1% like are like that. And when you encounter those clients, you're just like, oh wow, this is amazing.
Yes.
I didn't know you existed. And then there's the kind who are a little more like, they lose weight, and then they'll lose like inches. And at that point, you know, there's like a big change also in their performance. And they don't lose weight a lot. It's like within like 2 to 3 weeks, I would say.
Yeah.
They'll lose weight and then they'll lose inches. And then they're like, constant, their rate of losing fat and losing lean mass is like pretty, you know, comparable to each other. You know, so they're like doing a balanced reduction. Right. And then there's the group that loses a whole bunch of inches. Like, you know, they'll lose 5 inches in like a month or two, which is a lot.
That's amazing.
That is amazing. I mean, ideally, if you were just looking scientifically, that is the best case to be in. I mean, the first one is the best case to be in, but like this is the second best case to be in. Right? They use like 5 inches in like 1 to 2 months, and they have like barely lost any weight. Right? And this is the case where like people really struggle with. And usually the people who are in that category are either they have a hormonal thing. Like, especially women with PCOS, they tend to fall into that category. And then there are women who are exercising quite consistently.
So basically, it's your body is kind of either retaining a lot of water. A lot of times, hormonal stuff will do that. Your body just likes to retain water, even though you're losing fat. And then the second case, they're exercising, which is they're gaining lean mass. Is what you're pretty much saying, right?
Yes, exactly.
So, what category of these 3 people do you feel you fall into based on your experience?
I think I fall into the second category. I think I lose weight, and then like maybe a few inches.
And then maybe a bit, and then more weight, and then a few inches.
Yeah. It's not even a few inches, sorry. It's a fraction of an inch, you know? Yeah. So it's like a lot slower, but like the weight goes down a lot quicker for me. Yeah. which is why I'm in danger of getting skinny fat, because if you lose a bunch of weight,
you think you're making progress.
Yes, but you're actually losing a bunch of lean mass and therefore muscle, so it's very easy for me to get skinny fat.
Right. Yeah. And you track your performance at the gym now. But you didn't before.
Yeah.
So you could have been losing strength and not know.
At one point I got down to, and I wasn't even sick, I got down to 116 pounds. I'm 5'8".
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had lost so much muscle.
Was it intentional?
No, I just like, I think I injured, it was one of those cases where I really injured my leg again. And then I was like, well, there's a lot of work at business, the usual thing. So I'm just gonna like wait until I'm recovered. So like for 3 months or 4 months, I didn't like go to the gym.
Oh no.
And I also reduced my, I have a natural tendency to not, I have the opposite tendency where like if I am counting calories, like I am way too strict about staying under it.
Yeah.
So I have to actually not count calories in order to stay healthy and eat more. Yeah. Because at this stage, so I ate very less, and then I got down to 116 pounds, and then I was just like, wait, this is way too less for me.
Yeah.
I was like underweight, undernourished at that point.
Right.
But yes, so weight goes down a lot faster, but my inches like don't go down.
Don't change that much.
Yeah, probably muscle being replaced with fat is what's happening.
For me, I think I might be more in that third bucket, which is very interesting. I wonder if this is correlated with whether or not you are more of a skinny fat type of person trying to build muscle, or you are a traditionally fat. I mean, I'm not fat, but like versus the traditionally fat type of person who wants to lose fat while preserving muscle. I used to be in that category of people who just was traditionally fat. So I feel like that's, well, I was going to say that I used to think I was unlucky, but now I feel like maybe I'm lucky because I knew to care about health at an early age.
Yes.
So anyway, I would think I would be in that third bucket sometimes. I would say for 50% of the times, which is around my period, like clockwork around my period, 2 weeks, the week before and the week of my period, I would be maybe losing inches, but like see no change in weight whatsoever. Maybe even gain weight. Like the 3 or 4 days before my period, I almost always just gain weight no matter what.
Yeah.
And I just learned to just ignore that. I'm like, oh, it's just this. It's just another one of these happening. Like once you see the pattern, it's still hard to see it, but it's easier to ignore it. But then like the other 2 weeks, I would see my weight and waist kind of go up or down at a consistent cadence. So, that was another. Okay, just one more thing. We do notice that in our female clients, they see a lot more fluctuations around their menstrual cycle.
Yes. Yeah.
Which makes complete sense.
It does. It does. Yeah. So you're in the case where it's holistically very healthy, but mentally apparently a mind bender.
Oh yeah. No, well, it took me a really long time to realize that my period affected my weight so much. And it wasn't like during my period. It was like the week before.
Right.
And maybe a few days after. It was like almost 2 weeks of, of mind bending, as you would say. And it really wasn't until I started tracking my body measurements that I was able to let that go and realize that the weight increase didn't mean I regressed. Yeah. Whereas in the past, when I got to that point, I would always think I did something wrong and change tactics or just change something. And that was a lot of stress that didn't need to be there.
Yeah. And not to leave the men out. So the men, even though they don't have periods, they do also get stuck.
Yes.
Every I would say like every 4 weeks or so. Yeah. They do also get stuck.
We have male clients, which is very interesting, where it's like they would make consistent progress for like 5 weeks or something, and then like on week 5 or week 6, they would just suddenly get stuck, even though they've been doing everything the same. But then for whatever reason, week 7 they just start making progress again, and they don't have periods. But I mean, there is some literature on this. I think the whoosh effect comes into play, but I don't think we have enough research to know the why. Like, why do our bodies do this?
Yeah, that could be a factor, but then when you look at all the variables of what they've been eating and it doesn't add up. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they'll be stuck for like a week or 2 weeks usually. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Shall we?
I think that's good. I think we cover a lot of stuff.
Yes.
Let us know if you want particular topics you want us to talk about, any questions you have, or want to share more, experiences about what's going on. We'd love to address those.
Yeah, if you have questions, leave them below. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave them below in the comment section. If you're listening to us on our podcast, then we will leave you a link to leave your comments, probably to the YouTube video, so you can leave a comment on there. And we'd also love call-ins. Like if you actually have a coaching question for us, we'd love to have you call in to us so we can help you out in real time with your problem. Cool. Absolutely. Have a good one.
Bye.
Hey there. If you want to know when the next episode drops, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and also hit that bell icon. Until then, keep crushing it.